I'm McKinney Smith. In 2009, while going through a divorce, I decided to jump straight into entrepreneurship. In 2012, I lost my sister and asked myself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? Since then, I've become a serial entrepreneur, helping other women publish their books, produce their podcasts, and reach their big goals to walk in their greatness. I realized the importance of sharing our stories of resilience and how it can be another's guide to walk in a manner worthy of their calling. We are blessed to be a blessing, so get ready to be blessed with an inspiring testimony. Hey, Legacy Leavers. Thank you for joining us on the Walk in My Stilettos podcast, the top 1.5% most popular show globally, where we have conversations with extraordinary women that are letting us step into their shoes. I help women to own their voice, to create impact, prosperity, and legacy. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding, but I'm more interested in her backstory and her mindset on how she got there. So today's guest is a special one. So make sure that you subscribe since you're already here. Today we have Pamela Bolado. She's a mother, military wife, founder, and CEO of Women Who Do Wonders International, an exclusive community membership platform built by women to unite, support, and amplify the power of female entrepreneurs, mission-driven community leaders, and philanthropists working to improve the lives of women and children around the world. She's also the founder and executive director of Mission Wonder Women Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing mental health, self-care, wellness resources, workshops for women and children, survivors of trafficking, and underserved communities. She's a Wonder Woman herself, so please welcome to the show, Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, McKinney. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and, share your story with us. You and I both sat on a panel, earlier last year, and I thought I definitely need to have you on the show. You're doing some amazing things, and I just wanted my community and my network to know more about you so that they can fall in love with the work that you do as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I was so excited when you reached out.
Awesome. So I love to start the show with a bit of an icebreaker question. So before we get to, where you are presently and what you've gone through, I'd love to learn a little bit more about Pamela in her early days. So typically I like to ask, what did you want to be when you're a little girl, before society started to unintentionally put limits on our beliefs of what's possible. So I'd love to know what you wanted to be as a little girl and what you were like as a teenager.
Oh boy. That's a doozy. So, born and raised East Canada. I was born in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I was born with a cleft lip. So I always tell people that molded me more than anything. I think in the community and the schools that I went to in Moncton, I don't remember anybody else having a cleft around me. So I grew up always wondering, why me? Why was I the only one that looked like this or I had this? But I'll tell you that because I think back and I'm like, I bounced from so many different activities when I was young. I was into sports. I wanted to do drama. I tried out for all of the student council positions, vice president, president. And then I wanted to do ballet. And then I did jazz dancing for years. And then in like a flip of a switch, I started telling my parents that I wanted to be a pilot. And so I joined the Air Cadets, and then I did that for a couple of years. And then from there, I really transitioned into heavy sports. There were no female boxers on the east side of Canada, well, in Moncton, New Brunswick area anyway. And I told my dad, who was sort of an assistant coach at one of the clubs, and I told him, I said, I want to box. That's what I want to do. I want to try boxing. And so that was grade 10, I believe, at that time. And he's like, you can't box. There's no other girls, and there's no place for you to change and to do. And I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I'll go in the crummy bathroom and, I'll make it work. I'll change in there and I'll just train, and then that evolved into me actually starting to practice against the guys. And then I started to actually compete against other girls from other provinces. So I became the first female boxer from New Brunswick, from Moncton, and that really molded me into believing, I can do just about anything I put my mind to. But I tried so many things. I had my hands in all the things then.
Wow. So you are a real life Wonder Woman.
Well, I just tried. I wanted to try all the things because I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I don't know. Who knows at that time? Maybe a dancer, a pilot, and wrestler, boxer. I didn't know, but I tried it, and I tried lots of things. And then, it's all about self-discovery. So it's always a blessing when you see kids who are out there trying all these different things, because you need to discover that,
There's so many things, even in just, you talking about your early years, there's so many lessons I heard within that. You talked about where you grew up in Moncton, not seeing any other kids that have a cleft palate. You said you were born with a cleft palate. So you even going through that and learning to, I guess, I want to say find your own, but to also deal with whatever, kids can be cruel. So whatever could have came with that. And then being able to, push through and explore and wanting to get into boxing. And, your dad saying, this is, back then, I'm sure I'm going to say the vocabulary probably wasn't as kind as it is today to say that this is no place for girls, but you pushed through that and became the first female boxer. And so you started out resilient.
I did. And I honest to goodness, I say, as much as it hurt as a little girl, when the kids would mock me or, ask me what happened to your face or, those things. And I didn't know how to respond. Nobody knew what a cleft lip was. So if I said, a cleft lip, they're going to say, well, what's that? And then you got to explain it. And, so I used to shrink down and allow that to affect me. But I think I used all of those other tools, all those other sports and all those things to kind of escape from that. And it built me up. It built me up. So, so it was bad then. I remember feeling the feelings I had then. And I think that makes me a very sympathetic person today. And you don't have to go through something like that to be sympathetic. That's what makes me very sympathetic towards people. And, but yeah, it just, I would never take it back for the world. So it's made me who I am today. So
I love it. So tell us, how did you get to where you are today? Tell us how you came up, where the inspiration for Women Who Do Wonders came from, how you got into doing all the philanthropy work that you do now.
Absolutely. So, when I finished high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do still. And so I took a year off. And I moved away. I moved to Halifax, so I moved away with some friends, and of course we had fun for that year. and then I decided that I wanted to tap into making people feel beautiful, and that's a big difference from some of the things that I was doing, a year or two before that. But that really stemmed from I wanted to make women feel beautiful every day, because I had gone for my first facial, I think I was 18 or 19 years old. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is heaven. This is back in it's going to age me. So back in 98, I believe it was. So I did that. And then I was, oh my goodness, I can make people feel beautiful. So that's the career path I chose and went to school for that. I had met, I call him then, my Prince Charming. And, I moved, we lived together in Halifax, and then we made a huge shift, and I got a working permit, which back then it was a lot easier. I got a working permit to go and live and work in the UK. So that was my first kind of taste of going international and living, working, breathing, and being immersed into another culture or another country. And so I did that, found amazing jobs there while I was there. And then at, the tender age of 22, I decided to elope. So my ex-husband and I eloped, and he was Muslim and I was Christian. And I went and eloped in a mosque in the middle of London, covered my hair. I was very, I don't know. I think back and I was like, it was like a dream, I went through that, but went there, said my vows in a language I didn't know. But I loved him so much. And literally a couple weeks after that, we packed up and I moved to Kuwait. So I was this young girl from Moncton, New Brunswick, just living life, very naive, just happy to be traveling and going around. And then all of a sudden now I'm married and I'm moving to the Middle East. So so I moved to the Middle East and I got pregnant about 6 months after I arrived there. And that was a huge beginning for me. So it's my life takes a lot of shifts. So yeah. So Kuwait was a huge transition for me.
I can imagine. Let's go back to the 1998. And I know that year because that's the year I had my first daughter. So 24 years ago, you said at that point you wanted to make people feel beautiful.
Yes.
And I feel like oftentimes our pain births our purpose. The things that we are passionate about, that we want to do, that we seek to find solutions for as adults stem from either a childhood pain point or, something that we didn't have. When you speak about, kids being cruel back then because you had the cleft palate, and then as you got older, you wanted to make people feel beautiful. I would love to hear more about how that affected you because, shortly after, around those times, I went to school for aesthetics and spa management. And from I'm going to say a mental standpoint, it was a form of therapy for the clients as well as myself in terms of how they felt about their self-esteem. Sometimes people look at beauty as a superficial thing, but it also affects people's confidence and how they show up in the world. So I would love to first get into that part. And then I'm going to totally, because I'm a lover of love, then we'll get into the story of you and your husband.
Yes. So I'll say ex-husband. He's my ex-husband now, but yes.
Got it.
I mean, when I went to aesthetic school, that just like what you said, it was really, I felt like it was a form of therapy. I never felt like I was working. I loved my job. I loved going to work every day. And then being able to get a visa and go to another country and do that job in another country and, work with different nationalities and different, techniques. And, I was building myself up there as well. And, but to be honest, I mean, even though I'm not doing aesthetics today, that too was a huge, that's molded me into what I'm doing today as well. To be able to talk to these incredible women, and sometimes I'd have men too, but primarily I was working with women every single day, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. I would love to know, sometimes when we move countries, like, okay, so let's talk about change. Change in general is uncomfortable for most people. It can be messy in the middle until you adjust. And then once you find your footing, it's beautiful and rewarding. So small change can be hard for people. And in your story, you talk about moving from, one part of Canada to another part of Canada to moving to Kuwait, and you're now in the US. I would love to know how that has, I'm going to say, shaped your mindset or shifted your beliefs. Obviously, when we travel to different places in the world, I find the traveling opens up your mind, to new experiences, new thought processes. We're more open-minded when you, travel and experience life from different cultures, races, backgrounds.
Oh, it shaped everything about who I am today. 100%. I am so grateful for the travels that I've had, for the places I've lived, for the people I've been around, for the even though some of the experiences were not ideal, and I wouldn't wish them on anybody. I also don't regret those, because I really am a super strong person, and very resilient, however, very empathetic. And that's my life. That's, I think, my 44 years of just constant shifts. And I ended up living in Kuwait for 10 years. I actually moved there right before 9/11. And I remember sitting on my bed watching 9/11 happen on my bed in Kuwait and thinking, I didn't even know what I was thinking then. Like, what is happening? What is happening in this world where I don't know what's going to happen, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to what's happening, So that was had a huge impact on me. And I ended up still staying there. That was the beginning of my years. And then 2003, let's fast forward, 2003 happened. That's when Operation Iraqi Freedom broke out, and they had evacuated Kuwait, told all the foreigners to leave the country because Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons and was threatening Kuwait. And I didn't leave. So when I look back and think, okay, wow. I was a little bit naive, and, but the reason I didn't leave is because my ex-husband didn't leave. His mom was there. He was previously married before me. My stepkids were there. So in my head, my son was born at that time. In my head, I was like, I can't go back to Canada. I can't take my son and go back to Canada and watch everybody from afar. I can't do it. And so I stayed, and I contacted the Canadian embassy and told them, I'm still here. I'm still here. This is where I live, and I don't know what's happening. And where are the gas masks? Do we have gas masks? And, I was like, first time I ever had panic attacks was during that time. Mm-hmm. And anyway, they never had any. And they told us, take a wet cloth, make it wet, put baking soda on it, and put it over our faces. If a bomb hits, we had to make a bomb shelter in the house and stock the bathtub. And every time the sirens would go off, which means the missile was intercepted or shot over before it was intercepted, we'd hear the sirens because we lived next to the city, and I'd have to get my son up. He was only a year old at the time, and we'd have to lock ourselves in the bathroom, which we made. That's where our shelter was, and seal it and listen to this little radio until they told us it was okay to come out. So that was another huge shift and a huge moment in my life where definitely that definitely made me resilient and a strong person. And and then years went by after that, and I continued to work there and build myself up. I was able to travel all through Europe. I came and studied here in the States for a while. I did my Medi-clinical so I could work with plastic surgeons and dermatologists. So I was always wanting to be better. And then I started making my own skincare products in my kitchen in Kuwait. So I did that research and traveled to Germany and learned about, ingredients and manufacturing. And so I've always had that itch to, what can I do now? What can I do better? What can I learn today? So, and I'm still like that. I'm 44 and I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to develop new things and create something. But I love creating something from scratch. That's my thing. So
I hear, like, in your story, you've had to do, well, between having to do and choosing to do a lot of exploring, transitioning, pivoting. How do you stay motivated?
That's a good question. And I don't always stay motivated. That's the thing. And I love how we are now starting to talk more about mental health and mental wellness, because I know when I think back, what I didn't know then was all the feelings that I was having and the self-doubts that I sometimes had. Those all were, really me trying to figure out my own mental wellness. And there wasn't a word for it, and I didn't know what it was. And, but I'm so grateful that we're now talking a lot more about that, because I'm not always motivated, and I now know how to pinpoint when I'm not feeling motivated and then my mental health is kind of on decline, and what I need to do to make that transition, make that shift my mindset so that it's like, oh, okay, Pam, what are you doing? Just go out and I'll do my things that make me, my tools that make me feel better. And then I'm okay. And
so what are some of the tools that you use? Like, what are some of the things that you do when you're not feeling your greatest?
And it's the simplest thing. It's really the simplest thing. I rediscovered being an athlete in my 40s. When I turned 40, I'm going to fast forward too, because I'm now divorced. I divorced in 2010. I'm now remarried, but I lost myself for so many years during my time in Kuwait. When I left Kuwait, went back to Canada with my kids. I have 2 kids when I then left my ex-husband. And I lost myself. I gained so much weight, even though I created businesses, because I also created a business in Canada when I had gone back after my divorce. I was not okay. And I knew I needed to make a change. So I am now a military wife. So there's another huge shift. So I'm now a military wife. My husband, he deployed for the first time after we were married in 2018. And when he deployed, I looked at myself in the mirror one day. I was 40. And I was like, and as an esthetician, your skin, your body, and I was looking at myself and I could feel my skin changing, and that's okay. But I could feel it changing. I could feel my body not feeling the same. And it was like an instant shift. And I was like, no way. I said, I am going to beat this. I'm going to change my body. The day that he left on his deployment, it's like I deployed myself to the gym, I started working out. I was working out twice a day, completely, like 100% changed my diet, stopped sugar, increased my water by like 800%, just made this massive, massive shift. And I competed in a bodybuilding competition. I said, wow. I was not, well, let's go back.
Takes commitment.
I never wore a bikini during those years living in Kuwait too. So there were things in my marriage that it was, sometimes a little bit abusive, and just not being able to do some things that I wanted to do as a 20-year-old. And, but I'll tell you, at 40, I said, I don't care. I am going to buy the most sparkliest, prettiest bikini. I'm going to push my body to the max, and I'm going to stand on a stage loud and proud, and do a bodybuilding competition. And I did it. I flew to Arizona, and I did it. I was by myself, and I got up on that stage and I won in 5 months.
Wow. Congrats.
And I mean, I was overweight. I've had 2 C-sections. I call them my tiger stripes, my stretch marks all the way up my hips. And I was like, it's okay. I have a scar where years ago I had a belly button ring, and I said, I don't care. I said, I'm going to stand up there so proud. And I did, and I won. So that was I felt like, oh my God, I really can do anything. Mm-hmm. And since then, that's been my medicine. I love working out. I love taking care of myself. I feel better today than I did in my 30s by far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just shaking my head because I have a friend of mine who also, decided to do a huge transformation to her body. And I had a front row seat watching her transform her body for the bikini competition. And, just like you, dealing with, because I think she's a mom of, losing count now, I think 4. And transforming your body and the dedication that takes and the commitment to yourself that takes. So, hats off to you on that for sure. Mm-hmm. So what is your daily self-care routine look like?
I'm human, so it's not always the same. But I, for the most part, I get up, I stretch. That's really important. I always have a really big, tall glass of water in the morning before I do anything. Coffee is my joy. So I have coffee. I completely eliminated sugar. So I put a little stevia in there. I don't drink dairy or anything, so I use almond milks. So I have that routine. I've been eating the same breakfast, which this might be like ewy for a lot of people, but this is good for me. And this is what I have been doing since I started doing the fitness. But I have, plain oatmeal, and I put protein powder in it in the morning. So it's pasty and kind of not the most satisfying, but I'm so used to it now. But I know what is fueling my body. So now my mindset is I'm not just eating to eat, I'm eating to fuel. And so I get up, I have that routine, and that never fails. So I love my routine. And then depending on what work day I have, I might work out in the morning, I might work out at night, but I try to make sure that I work out every single day. And then of course, keep my water up, because it's hydrating your body is hydrating your brain. Yes. So just small things. It's just the small things, but those small things make a huge difference.
Agreed. The small things and doing them consistently. When you spoke about, what you have for the same thing for breakfast every day, some people don't realize, one, the lack of having to make that choice. You relieve your mind from the stress of trying to figure out, what you're going to eat every day. There are some people that basically have a uniform for the week, so they don't have to worry about what they're going to wear or, that repetition. I believe is it Bill Gates? I can't remember, but there's a lot of
Steve Jobs always wore the same thing.
Right. Was it the blue blue
black
jeans?
Black turtleneck.
Yeah. Yes. Even Les Brown has his, uniform that he wears for speaking engagements and stuff. So that consistency of it, where it's on autopilot, your brain doesn't need to think about it. So I totally understand that. I would love to know, what inspired you to start and create Women Who Do Wonders?
That's a good question too. So I moved to the United States in 2016. Matt and I met on the Kuwait seaside in 2015. I was working I had gone back to Kuwait, by the way. So I lived in Canada after my divorce. I did go back to Kuwait because my two older boys went to live with their dad, and I didn't want to be away from them. So I sold everything, closed my store down, sold everything, moved back with a few suitcases. And that again, started over, made that shift again. I was lucky because I had a great relationship with my past employer. They brought me back. I had a great job. Had a small apartment in the middle of Kuwait City, but met Matt on the Kuwait seaside. He's a pilot in the Air Force, and we fell in love. And then 2016, I'm here. So I moved here, and now I'm a military wife. So if you think about it, I went from being somebody married on the other side of war and living through a war and building a shelter to now being married to somebody that flies. And he was literally flying there all the time to Kuwait for missions. So I went, from a woman on one side of war to a woman on the other side of war. So again, there's the buildup of understanding women and where that empathy comes into play. So I tried to figure out what am I going to do here in the United States. And I did attempt to start working back into skincare and seeing what I could do here in the US. And I did that for a very little while. I actually won Esthetician of the Year the first year that I moved here, and I was on the cover of Skin Deep magazine. So that was a huge success, but it quite literally was about 2 months after I won that award, I hung up my license and I said, I'm done. I'm good. I did this for a long time. It's time for me to move on and do something different. So I started doing events for women of the military. I felt that there was a need at that time in 2018 for wellness. And I started making these events for wellness and speakers and entrepreneurship. And they were so successful, and the women used to leave so happy and so fulfilled. And it was amazing. I felt so good doing these events. So COVID then happened in 2020. So then I was like, oh boy, I can't do events now. What am I going to do? So I had hosted my first virtual event, and that was a huge success because I had about 800 women from all over the world. attend this virtual event. I opened with Miss America. I had the first female fighter pilot. I had the first female woman who coached in the NFL, Jen Welter. I had brought in the most extraordinary women, and a lot of these were international. Some were from here, but a lot of them were firsts, and I loved that. I love hearing I'm a first. This, you're leading the path, you're paving the path for another woman. So after that event, I was like, oh my goodness, I know what I'm supposed to do, because this feels incredible. And I have this fire burning under me to do something about what I just created. And so then I created my magazine because I wanted a platform to be able to share these women's stories more regularly. So I launched my magazine, which was called Wellness and Wisdom at that time. And then at the end of 2020, I said, you know what? I'm going to create Women Who Do Wonders, the platform, and I'm going to take the amazing connections that I have all over the world and do something with that, and share the stories of women who use their amazing platforms for the greater good. And it's evolving. We're still, even this year, it's changed a little bit and it's evolved. But last year I was a force. Last year I said, I am going to get these stories. I mean, I'd only launched, I think, 5 magazines. And I thought, I got to get these stories in front of people. How can I get them in front of people? I went to the Emmys. I went to the Oscars. And I had a beautiful table. It was like pre-party or whatever it was, where the celebrities and producers come for gifts and things like that. So I was there and I was meeting producers and sharing and saying, you have to read these women's stories. And so that was passion. I felt like this is what I really need to do. And that's where Women Who Do Wonders is now evolving. I want to be a space where if you are an incredible woman, and doesn't matter what you are, if you're an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an athlete, if you're using your platform for the greater good, I want to help you. And I want to help you get in front of people. And I'm still trying to get in front of people, but I'll tell you, I don't know what it is. I have the ability to do that. So, and I'm still doing it. I'm still learning, just like every other entrepreneur, but I'm a fighter. So I'm going to keep pushing to make sure that I get Women Who Do Wonders in front of everybody so that I can have a platform where these women can shine. So that's where I am now.
Wow. You definitely are a fighter, like from the moment you came out. But like, there's so many points in your story that, I'm like, I want to unpack, but I'm like, oh, we're going to have to like do a part 2 or something another time. And this is the beauty for me, I find, in doing these interviews and having this podcast, is like, I truly believe that our stories as women are more alike than they are different. And yes. I love hearing the stories of different women from different backgrounds and different experiences. And it's like, no matter where a woman lives or what her upbringing was like, there are parts within her story that we can all resonate with. And you're talking and I'm listening, and it was like every part of your story, there was a check that was going off in my brain. Like, yep, same. Yep, same. So I was totally resonating with all the parts of your story. And I love, like I said, I love your resilience. And I love that, when you decided to start, Women Who Do Wonders, it was about supporting military wives, like creating this community, creating this network. But I love how the core messaging of amplifying the voices of women and sharing their stories. And maybe that's probably what speaks to me the most, because that's what I presently do. But it's like, right. Every part of your story, like my ex-husband is Muslim as well. Yeah. My current partner's name is Matt as well.
Wow. Okay.
I was an esthetician in the past as well. I'm like, okay, Pamela, I hear you.
Wow, that's amazing.
I love it. I totally love it. So before we go to the final segment of the show, I want you to tell people where they can stay connected with you online and to learn more about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So we're actually getting ready to do a little bit of a revamp and a rebuild of Women Who Do Wonders, but you can still go on womenwhodowonders.org and at least join for free. Right now, it's completely free to be a member of Women Who Do Wonders as we continue to build out, because I'm building partnerships around the world with a lot of amazing organizations and media companies so that I can get these stories out there. So you want to get in there, be a part of it, so that when we officially launch big, you want to be, definitely want to be a part of that. But you can find me on Instagram, Pamela _ Bolado, and you can also follow at Women Who Do Wonders. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So you can look me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. So I'll definitely have all of the links in the detailed section of the episode so they can just click and connect with you directly. They don't have to search too far.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
And thank you. So for the final segment of the show, I call it a walk in her wisdom. It's almost like a rapid fire. You can answer one word, one sentence. Sometimes I may ask you to unpack because I don't really like rules. But you let me know when you're ready.
Okay. I'm not ready for this, but go.
Yeah. Okay. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
It would be my logo that says Women Who Do Wonders because it's clear and it has a hand holding this beautiful pink globe with rose gold on it because those are my favorite colors.
Love it. Love it. How has motherhood changed you?
It has made me a very patient woman.
Name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
Ooh, that's a really hard one, Bikini. I'm going to say the Bible.
Yeah. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
These aren't rapid fire. These are like, the worst advice I've ever received is don't go to Mount Everest. And I did it anyway.
Love it. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Travel.
What new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life in the last 5 years?
Habit is definitely the exercising, nutrition, and increasing my water. Water is like liquid gold.
When was the last time you cried?
Yesterday.
When was the last time you apologized to someone?
Probably last week to my husband. Sometimes when I get my period, I get very, so I apologize for those days.
Totally get it. Okay, last but not least, what do you wish women would do more of?
I wish women would do more of believing in themselves and knowing they're capable of anything they put their mind to. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Pamela, for sharing your stories with us, sharing your life with us. I love, like I said, I love the similarities in our stories, but I know that the women that are listening will gain so much value from your experience. So thank you for sharing your time and energy with us. Well, I really appreciate you having me. I'm always grateful for another woman giving space to women to allow them to share their stories. So I'm grateful for you. Likewise. And to all of you legacy leavers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. And don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We would love to hear your aha moments from Pamela's story. What resonated with you? What was your takeaway? Feel free to screenshot this week's episode and you can tag us on Instagram. You can tag Pamela at Pamela _ Bolado, or you can tag at Women Who Do Wonders, or you can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. And I just want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen each week to help the show rank globally in the top 1.5% most popular shows out of over 2.8 million podcasts. Thank you once again, and continue to walk in greatness in your stilettos in a manner worthy of your calling.